Hello and welcome. Today we're down at Howley Hall Golf Club in Leeds taking a look at the new Blueprint iron from Ping. Ryan Rastall here for Golfshake.com, and as I've said, we're taking a look at the new Blueprint iron from Ping. But first, remember, if you haven't already done so, click the subscribe button below and see loads more content about the latest golf gear and everything out on the market this year. So, Blueprint iron from Ping. I'm sure some of you have seen this online. It's gone a bit bonkers in the last couple of weeks, but this is an iron Ping have brought out. Very, very small club head. It's a blade and something that's not going to suit everybody, but it's definitely something you should take a look at. And just to even hold one in your hand is a thing of beauty. They are a lovely, lovely looking golf club. Technology-wise, there's not tons in there, but they have tried to make a traditional bladed iron slightly more forgiving with a tungsten toe weight, moving the CG a little bit. But these are not for your high handicap golfer at all. These are not going to give you the forgiveness that other irons within the Ping range or any out there on the market will do. But they look absolutely beautiful. Probably the nicest looking bladed iron I've seen for a while. They are made from carbon steel, so it is an 8620 carbon steel, which is a slightly firmer type of carbon steel. So if you're looking for a buttery forged kind of feel that you would normally associate with a blade, this iron doesn't really give you that, but the feedback and the sound is still pretty awesome, which you'll see a bit later when we get to hitting them. But the narrow soles were the first thing that I kind of saw about these irons and what really sort of drew me to them. I first saw these back in January when we were in Orlando, and it was a 2-iron I got to look at. I mean, the 4-iron's small enough, but the 2-iron was scary. And to be honest, when I saw it, I thought, what is the point of making that set of irons? Because nobody's going to buy them, no one's going to hit them. There's no forgiveness there. They almost kind of took me back to irons you used to see in the sort of 70s and 80s, a really tiny blade when the golf ball was obviously that little bit smaller as well. So yeah, I just really didn't think they would appeal. But since I've seen these irons, since I've got to see the whole set, I mean, the 4-iron's still pretty daunting to hit, as I've said, but the 7-iron, the wedge, all the way through the set, they look great. They don't look anywhere near as formidable as that 2-iron did that I saw in Orlando. But we tested them and hit them in the Performance Centre here today, and we'll see the results in a little while, but I was pleasantly surprised. Normally when you try a blade, they're all pretty similar. You know that you're not going to get tons of distance with them because that's not really what they're made for. If you're looking for distance in an iron, a blade is not the way to go. You should be looking at something with a little bit more meat behind the head there for you. But really minimal offset, so there's hardly any on these irons whatsoever, which for someone whose bad shot goes a bit left, kind of suits my eye a little bit. I really like the look of these irons when you sit them down. We went to Ping a few weeks ago, and I was lucky enough to have a iron and driver fitting when I was down there, and I've had the luxury of being sent clubs to test that are actually built to my spec. So that makes this testing process a little bit more relevant, I think. So we'll see later on just how they performed. But yeah, the technology is there. They're lovely, narrow soled, tungsten weight to give them a bit more forgiveness, but they're an iron that has got tons of shelf appeal and something that everyone's going to want to grab when they walk into the pro shop. Okay, so now we've been out on the golf course and tried the irons out there and seen how they perform in a golfing situation. We've brought them inside into the Performance Centre here at Howley Hall, and now we're going to see how they go on the TrackMan. So we're going to look at some of the numbers, how they perform, and sort of how I would expect sort of a 4-iron, 7-iron and wedge, which is what we're testing, to perform. So let's start with pitch and wedge, all right? So I tend to hit the ball very high and spin the ball a lot. Bladed clubs don't really lower my ball flight. Some people think that they do, but for me, I've always found I pretty much hit the same ball flight, regardless of whether it's a cavity or a blade. Looking at these, yeah, the ball flight's nice and high. You can see the spin is very high. But in terms of the distances I'm hitting it, pretty much what I'd expect, if not a tiny bit longer. I would normally 135 is a pitching wedge really for me, and on average, the ones I've hit today have just been a little bit longer than that. Whether today I'm just swinging it a little bit better than normal, I don't know. Certainly we're swinging it quite well on the course and hit some good shots out there, but yeah, I mean it's kind of what I would expect. I mean, the irons feel awesome off the face, a little bit firmer than you'd expect a forged blade to feel. I think that's all down to the sound. I mean, it just sounds a bit more solid, which I quite like, to be honest. But the performance there, we can see it's nice high ball flight, plenty of spin, and in terms of dispersion and things like that, very, very tight as well. So decent group in there with all the shots. You know, there's only a couple of yards between the longest and the shortest, which that's kind of what you're looking for with a blade. You want precision. Distance is absolutely not something you're thinking about. So a player who chooses a bladed iron like this, distance is literally probably bottom of the list in terms of things that they're looking for. If we move on to 7-iron, spin, it wasn't really that high. It was kind of where I'd expect. If we look at it on the optimizer there on the TrackMan, it's well within that area, launching a bit higher than I would normally, potentially, but I think it's really, these irons aren't as strong aloft as some that I've used in the past. So my 7-iron in the set that I've had has generally been about 32 degrees. This one's not quite as strong as that, so we'd expect a slightly higher ball flight. But distance is there, you know, we're average carry 171, 175. I always base my 7-iron, you know, on a flat calm day, in decent conditions, about 175. So that kind of rings fairly true there. Again, the ball flights are good, nicely grouped. Whenever we look at ball flight like this from a side-on view and they're nice and tightly dispersed, that generally means that it's quite consistent. The ball flight's good, and it's sort of something that I would expect to see if I was playing well. 4-iron, again, really good. I mean, the distance is fantastic. 219 carry as an average, which is good. 230 total, which is probably longer than I would expect to hit a 4-iron. Spin's probably a little bit lower than normal. Traditionally, when I've used bladed sort of clubs, I get to the top end of the set, and because I hit it quite high, the sort of 4, 5, 6-iron tend to bunch up a little bit in terms of the yardage, and maybe we don't stretch that out. But here we're seeing slightly better trajectory and a little bit more distance there. The biggest thing I can say is that people look at these irons and think that they're going to be really hard to hit. And don't get me wrong, that you've got to be a decent striker at the golf ball to get the most out of them. But when I haven't hit the middle of the face, I've not seen a huge drop off in yardage that I would expect to see, and certainly what I have seen in blades that I've had previously. So although they look quite daunting, I don't actually think they pack the punch that they kind of look like they do. So I mean, they're a little bit more forgiving than you would anticipate them being, and certainly worth trying. So there we have it. We've tried the wedge, the 7 and the 4 in the Ping Blueprint iron. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Please comment below. Let us know what you think. Do you like the look of these? Do they scare the life out of you? Is it an iron you want to try? Please let us know. I've loved these so much, I've actually bought myself a set. So I've got some on order with Ping now, and they should be here in the next few days. So really excited about trying those and playing with those for the rest of this season. Hope you've enjoyed the video. See you all very, very soon, and enjoy your golf.